Indiana basketball continues to offer the top players in the class of 2026. Can they land a top 10 guy like Jordan Smith?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Well, thank you so much for being here. Glad that you are spending your Friday with us, or if you're watching this at a later date or listening to this to a later date, hope you're enjoying your day. We got a lot to talk about on the show today as Curt Cignetti sat down with Greg McElroy. They've got a relationship from when Cignetti was an assistant at Alabama, and there's some really good quotes in there from Cignetti. He talks about how we deserved to be in the college football playoff. I'll tell you why he is correct and why you could see that happen again this year. Plus, had some interesting quotes just about some position battles in the transfer portal, and he's got some post-spring anxiety. We'll talk about that from what Cignetti had to say in his sit-down with ESPN. But Indiana basketball and DeVries continue to offer the best player scholarships in the class of 2026. This time, a pair of AAU teammates, including Jordan Smith, who is a top 10 player in the class of 2026. We'll begin with Jordan Smith. He also offered, talking about DeVries, of course, offered Prince Alexander Moody, who is a top 120, 130 player in the class of 2026, considered a 3-star, could be a 4-star by the time he gets to the next level, but more on him in just a moment. Jordan Smith is the name that we are highlighting today because he is a consensus 5-star, top 10 player across the board. Doesn't matter what website you use. He's from the state of Virginia, and he is a 6'2" shooting guard who weighs 200 pounds, and this kid is a baller, okay? You turn on the film, and it speaks for himself. His stats are incredible. He dominates at every level, as high school, AAU, travel ball, EYBL, doesn't matter. He is a certified bucket getter. And what I like about Jordan Smith is he's a little bit undersized, yes, but you wouldn't know it by the way he plays. Again, just turn on the film. It's spelled exactly how you think it is. Jordan Smith, he's incredible. And he just fills up the stat sheet, and not in a Russell Westbrook type of way. He just fills up the stat sheet because he's just that good. And he knows where to be, knows what to do, and he plays with all out effort, man. And that's what really excites me about what Jordan Smith could be, no matter where he plays. I mean, the scholarship list for this guy is unbelievably long, and you would expect that to be the case since he's a top 10 player in the class of 2026. I mean, we're talking Kentucky, North Carolina, Houston, Syracuse, Duke, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Indiana's now in there. I mean, Michigan is in there. I mean, there's all the biggest names in college basketball are going after the shooting guard of Jordan Smith. And what's interesting is there are some really, really fascinating players that have come out come out of this AAU team. And Kenny Johnson, who is new assistant on this Indiana staff, has a ton of relations in this area with this team and with these types of players. And so there's a great connection there. And I've continued to say that I love the fact that Indiana and DeVries and guys like Kenny Johnson and all these guys on the staff, they're going after whoever they want, wherever they want, and pretty much win ever they want. They're not worried that you're a top 10 player and you've got 50 other scholarship offers. We're brand new to Indiana. It's time for us to step in and come and make our pitch, come and talk to you about what we can do at Indiana. So that's a big deal. The fact that you have offered a top 10 player in the class of 2026. Now, whether he comes on a visit or not, or considers Indiana, who knows? We're going to have to wait and see. But I still think it's a big deal that you're offering guys like this. And his teammate that I mentioned, Prince Alexander Moody, who is more of a combo guard, more of a guy who can play point guard, can play shooting guard, maybe play small forward if he absolutely had to, but more of just your traditional guard. 6'4", 180 pounds. He's from Maryland, but again, they play on the same AAU team. He's from Maryland, 6'4", 180 pounds. Pretty much a 3-star wherever you look. Okay, these guys play on Team Takeover together, and someone who you offer because of the potential, but you offer because of also the teammate aspect of it. And by no means am I saying that Indiana only offered a scholarship to Prince Alexander Moody just so they could get closer to Jordan Smith. That's not what I'm saying at all. And what I am saying is you have an opportunity to land two really good basketball players in the class of 2026 who already have rapport, who already have a chemistry, who already know each other's tendencies and know how to play the game with one another. That's a big deal. That is why you offer both of them. And I promise you, just from what I've been told and hear and what I've seen from Darren DeVries, from this assistant coaching staff, and just them as a whole, this is not going to be a staff that just gives a pity scholarship to get ahead somewhere else. They're not going to offer somebody if they don't feel that they can play at the next level, or if they feel that they can't play at Indiana and play in their system and up to their expectations. Like, they're not just going to throw away a scholarship here, is what I'm telling you. And I think if you had the opportunity to land Jordan Smith, a top 10 player, along with his teammate in Moody, you would be off to a really hot start. And again, these are both still in the early projections. And I mean, imagine you land both of these guys who are technically, again, Jordan Smith, the shooting guard, and Moody is a combo guard. Okay, cool. Moody's your point guard, and Jordan Smith is your shooting guard. Boom, you're done. You got two star-studded freshmen who can walk into play next season, and you're ready to go and set, ready, aim, fire. And that's what Indiana's trying to do here. So that's also when I look at this upcoming season, and I've made this point before, and I want to make it again. This upcoming season for Indiana basketball is so huge. It's so crucial and important for Darren DeVries and this coaching staff to just prove what they can do on the biggest scale. Sure, there's film and are examples from their time at Drake, from their very short time at West Virginia, on what they're going to do, how they're going to play, the style, the rotation, the development of players, right? That exists. I'm not saying it doesn't. But what I'm saying is that needs to come out here at Indiana so guys like Jordan Smith can see, okay, he can do it at this level. He can do it with somebody like me. Trent Sisley is a perfect example. LaVar Wilkerson is a perfect example. You're bringing in guys, one through the portal, one through the high school ranks, who are going to be playing at the shooting guard spot. What do you do with them? How do they play? What's their minutes like? What's their involvement like? Are they pushed to the max? Are they expected high things? And do they deliver? And do they enjoy it? I mean, guys like George Smith want to play in the most competitive room possible. That's what makes him so good. That's why he's a top 10 player, because he wants to win and he wants to be somewhere that can win with him on the squad. He'll be watching Indiana this year. I promise you. Both of these guys will. And if you can have a good season and DeVries can show that he can use his players properly and develop them and get them to the next level, you have a real chance with somebody like Jordan Smith and all these guys that you've been offering scholarships to. But I cannot contain my excitement on how good I think Prince Alexander Moody could be. All right, Maryland's in there, Illinois, Michigan State. Those teams are already on him right now. And then his teammate, Jordan Smith, a top 10 player in the class of 2026. Can Indiana land him? Absolutely. It's going to take some work, and it's going to be an uphill battle. But my goodness, how fun would it be to land a couple of big-time AAU teammates, including a top 10 player in the country? All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we will switch gears over to football because Curt Cignetti sat down with ESPN and did a one-on-one interview and talks about some post-spring anxiety, but also tells us a little about some positions as well and position battles on this team. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console is required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops and beyond as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. The greatest part about this, and I say this all the time, you can take it with you wherever you go. So rather than going on vacation or a work trip and taking your Xbox and all the cords and hoping that it's not going to break, just take the little Fire 4K stick, Fire TV 4K stick. That's all you got to do. Take it with you, put it in your bag, put it in your pocket if you want to. That and a controller. That's all you need. And you can turn any TV in the world into an Xbox console. Okay, so that's what I like to do. That's what you should do as well. It really is incredible. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Again, appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And if you're listening on your various audio podcasting platforms, thank you so much for doing that. And make sure that you have your notifications turned on so you never miss any bonus episodes or just regular episodes that we post here on Locked On Hoosiers. And for those of you watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Do you think that Indiana basketball is going to start landing some of these top 2026 players on the roster in the recruiting cycle? I mean, do you feel confident in Darren DeVries being able to land these guys? Let me know down in the YouTube comments, and also what we're going to talk about with football as well with Curt Cignetti and stuff. So thank you so much for doing that, and really do appreciate your support. All right, well, Curt Cignetti, head coach of Indiana football, sat down with Greg McElroy of ESPN, who does color analyst for college football, and they have a relationship that goes back quite a ways when Cignetti was at Alabama, when Greg McElroy was at Alabama. And Curt Cignetti had a lot of interesting quotes, and the next two segments are going to be about just that, because he talks about how he says we deserved to be in the college football playoff. And we're going to break that down a little bit coming up here shortly. But some of the things that stood out to me in this interview were a little interesting. I'm not going to say concerning, but I'm not going to say exciting either. Well, maybe some of them were exciting. But the one that stood out to me was the fact that he talks about having post-spring anxiety. And he's talking about positions and the health of the team and what they have going into the summer, and basically hoping that it's going to be enough. He talks about how, you brought in stuff through the portal and you got to retain quite a few players and you feel good about where you are in terms on paper. But he says, look, I'm, nervous and worried about what we have, because that's just what I always do. And I feel like that's just what a coach does in general. And so I wanted to clear that up and say, I don't think you, as a fan, should have post-spring going into the summer anxiety about Indiana football. Heck, I've sat here and told you for several weeks now that this team is extremely talented, could be more talented than the team we had last year, and that's a team that made it to the college football playoff. But for somebody like Curt Cignetti, who is a dang near perfectionist, he wants it to be perfect, and he knows that it could probably be better, and they probably didn't get to work on everything they wanted to during spring practice. They probably didn't develop as much as he wanted to during spring practice, and now you're in a position over the next several months where you can't do anything about it. There's no practicing. There's no real chemistry happening with the team and the coaches. I mean, you'll have some meetings and some workouts and things like that, but you can't practice. And so, yeah, I'm sure there is a little bit of post-spring anxiety for Curt Cignetti, but he also talked about several key position battles, including quarterback, and not in terms of a battle, but just how good Fernando Mendoza is. And it sounds like he's pretty comfortable with Fernando Mendoza, right? After you bring him in, after Curtis Rourke left, and some really good quotes in here. And the main thing that sticks out to me is the fact that he talks about him being a dual threat guy. He talks about Fernando Mendoza in the light that he can make plays with his legs more than Curtis Rourke could. Listen to this stat. He said, quote, "We moved Curtis Rourke 0.25% of the time last year, not even 1%. So everybody knew where he was launching it from." He goes on to say, "We'll move that launch point a little more this year, and you'll probably see a little quarterback run here and there," end quote. That's exciting. That's really exciting for me because Indiana last year did become a little one dimensional just in terms of their passing game. Because when Curtis Rourke dropped back to throw, he dropped back to throw. That's what he was going to do, is what Cignetti just said. And you just watched the games last year. He wasn't going to take off very often. Did he have the ability? Sure. But there was really no guidance to him of, hey, take 2 steps to the right, see if it opens up and let it fly, or take off. No, Curtis Rourke was as much of a pocket passer as anybody I've ever seen, which is why I think he could end up having a decent career in the NFL if he gets a true shot, but we'll see how that goes. But with Fernando Mendoza, you can already tell based off of what Cignetti's telling you here that they're going to build that in. They're going to build some runs in there. And he's probably, I would assume, is going to have the green light to take off and run. If the play breaks down, go. Get out of there. Get out. Go and make something of it. Get a couple of yards. Whereas Curtis Rourke last year with a okay offensive line, he would have to take a sack or throw it away. Curt Cignetti in this interview also talks about how he believes the offensive line is going to be improved. After a couple of guys returning, you bring in Pat Coogan. He feels good about the offensive line. He throws in Pat Coogan, throws in Carter Smith, who he says, quote, is an all-conference type of player, right? Got injured. Now he's going to be back this year. Bray Lynch coming in at right guard is what he's talking about. And then Khalil Benson, who they also believe can be in there too. So he feels confident that this is going to be a better offensive line than it was a year ago. And my goodness, if that's the case, Indiana's offense is just going to continue to churn through defenses because they put up a ton of points a year ago, and that's when Curtis Rourke didn't have all the time in the world. That's when you played big-time teams, and they just couldn't hold up. That's what you have to do. There was never an issue against the Marylands of the world, right? The Northwesterns of the world, that was never an issue. It's when you played Michigan, it's when you played Ohio State, it's when you played Notre Dame. Like that's when you ran into your issues, when you played the big boys of college football. And that's why you bring in big boys from the transfer portal. And it sounds like Curt Cignetti's pretty excited about what that has to hold. He also mentions the running back room, and no crazy quotes in there. He pretty much tells you exactly what we've been saying. The fact that as of right now, this is going to be a running back by committee. Kalen Black's going to be the dude, but between BB from UAB and Roman Hemby from Maryland, this is going to be a running back by committee room. And that's okay. That's okay. You have to have several dudes at this level in the Big Ten. You have to have several dudes who can run the football. And I think Kalen Black is an awesome starter. I think he's going to be your number one guy based off of what we saw throughout the spring and what we saw at a spring game, right? But you feel good about the transfers behind him, 2 guys who have proven it at a big time level. And you just need rotation in there. You just need minutes. You need snaps, man. You just need reps in there. And I think that's what you're going to see on the offensive side of the football. So Cignetti gives you some confidence. He may not be confident, but that's just him being a coach and wanting the best for his team and always looking to improve. But I think based off of what he's telling you, this offense is going to be very, very good. And you should have confidence in that because I have confidence in that. And I'm going to keep telling you that. And I can't wait to see this team come fall, see how they get better through fall practice. First few games of the year, obviously, are not all that exciting, but you have a chance to really work out the kinks before you welcome in what should be a big game with Illinois week 4 here in Bloomington. All right, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll continue breaking down a quote from Curt Cignetti who says, "We deserved to be in the college football playoff." And, sir, I totally agree. We'll break that down right after this here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, man, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Their all-in-one convenience is a reason that I use Monarch Money. Instead of juggling all these different apps, all these different accounts, and having to bounce back and forth and remember which one is where, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan your long-term goals. And if you're trying to manage money with a partner out there, you can use Monarch Money to have shared personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress and the arguments. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. That's at monarchmoney.com. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again so much for being here. We're having a lot of fun on a Friday in May. And Curt Cignetti in that interview on ESPN, he says, quote, "We deserved to be in the college football playoff." The actual quote is, "We made the playoff and we deserve to be there." And this obviously is stemming from the fact that people still disrespect the idea that Indiana made the college football playoff. They still don't believe this idea that Indiana made the college football playoff, or they just refuse to accept the fact that Indiana made it to the college football playoff. Heck, some of my guys in the Big Ten squad on the show yesterday still don't accept the fact that we made it to the college football playoff. And that's fine. That's totally okay. And it's totally okay for fans and podcasters and media and whoever else to think, ain't no way it could happen again for the Hoosiers. That's fine. You could call it a fluke. You could call it a one-hit wonder. You could call it whatever you want to. But what you can't do is take that away and take it out of the history books, the fact that Indiana made it to the first ever 12-team college football playoff. That will be written in stone somewhere until the end of time. But what's so funny is fans on the outside, non-Indiana fans, just think that Hoosiers fans are just satisfied. We're good. We're happy. We never have to win another football game again. Thank you, Jesus, and thank you, Lord, and whoever you praise, right? They just think that we're so happy and giddy that we made the playoff that we're just satisfied and we never have to win again, that we're okay with it being a one-hit wonder. We were just happy to be there. That's wrong. It's incorrect. It's not true. It is totally not right. Indiana fans are hungry. They're hungrier than ever. Now, there are some fans who will understand if you don't make it to a college football playoff this year. And I think that's totally okay. And that's totally acceptable if it doesn't happen. But Indiana fans want to win. They've tasted it now. And now you want it some more. And looking at the schedule for this year, which is why you catch so much flack from a year ago because of the schedule, it's harder this year, but it's not overly difficult. You can do the same thing you did last year, win most of your games, compete in the big ones, and you're still going to have a conversation of making it to the college football playoff. I can't get over this idea that non-Indiana fans think that we're just so happy to be there that we're fine with it. We don't have expectations anymore because historically we're not a good football program, but we're trying to turn that around. Cignetti is trying to turn that around. And I've seen it and heard it from you just from this podcast, man. You guys are ready for football season. You guys are ready to see this team back out on the field and get hyped up and see this team in action and see the transfers come in and see the freshmen become superstars and get into some of these big time matchups. And I'm right there with you. I love college football. It's awesome. And the fact that Indiana will now have a spotlight every single week of the season is a big deal to me. And it should be a big deal to you. And you start thinking about this idea of, okay, can Indiana make it again? Because you made it last year. Cignetti says you deserve to be there, and we absolutely did. He's 100% right. You start debating this idea of whether we deserve to be there this year. Well, if you win the games on your schedule, absolutely. You win the games on your schedule, you're going to be fine. You beat Illinois at home. Cool. You take care of the games like Maryland on your schedule. Cool. You're going to be okay. And Purdue and things like that. Then you've got the two big ones, the two games that everybody's going to be watching that you're a part of when you go to Eugene and to Happy Valley. Can you beat Oregon in Eugene, or can you beat Penn State at their place? If you do one of those two things, you will go back to the college football playoff. Because if you beat one of those two teams, you're not losing to the other jokers on your schedule. I'm sorry, you're not going to do it. I don't care if Iowa's supposed to be good. Indiana's going to win that football game. You can beat Oregon or Penn State, you'll be in the college football playoff. And that'll also prove that you can win some games in the college football playoff as well. But you've got to win your games. You've got to take care of your schedule and show and prove and earn your spot back in there. And this will be a conversation as we wrap up here. So just be ready for this. There will be a conversation about halfway through the season when the first playoff rankings come out. If Indiana's anywhere near it, there will be people that say, well, we put them in last year and you saw what happened. They let Notre Dame beat them. So we shouldn't put them in this year. Somebody else deserves a spot. That's idiotic. That's stupid. Last year has nothing to do with this year. Last year has absolutely nothing to do with this year's standings, this year's teams, this year's results, whatever they're going to be. Because my prime example of that is Notre Dame. If you ran with that argument every season, don't put Notre Dame anywhere near a playoff or a good bowl game, because all they do is get the brains beat out of them when they play a really good team or even a decent team most of the time, i.e. the national championship game, right? They got beat. They blow it every time they get on the biggest stage. They can't get it done when it matters most. So that argument is completely stupid, in my opinion. So don't look at last year. That has nothing to do with whatever happens this year. Now, if Indiana goes 8-4, no, you don't deserve to be in the playoff. And I won't be arguing that at all. But if you win your games and you can beat one of those two big dogs on your schedule, watch out. Indiana will be knocking on the door of another college football playoff berth. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, man. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a great week of the show. Looking forward to what next week has in store. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below, and subscribe to the channel, okay? We just surpassed, let me get the official number, we just surpassed 5,700 subscribers. So thank you so much for that. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you're listening on your audio platforms, make sure that you're following the show, subscribed if you can, and have your notifications turned on, okay? We are back on Monday, Hoosier fans, to start another week. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.